Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, where we dive into the creepiest stories that'll keep you up at night. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because you don't want to miss this one. Today, I've got something special, a chilling tale that'll make you think twice about working late. It's about a guy named Ethan Parker, a coder at a tech startup in Seattle, who thought he was just pulling an all-nighter, until the office turned into a nightmare. This story's got everything: weird noises, a creepy security guard, and a mystery that'll mess with your head. So, grab some snacks, turn off the lights, and let's get into it. Oh, and stick around to the end. I want to hear if you've ever felt watched at work. Here we go. My name's Ethan Parker, and I'm a coder at Syntech, this hotshot tech startup in Seattle. You know, the vibe, open plan office, free snacks, ping pong tables, the whole deal. But let me tell you, it's not all happy hours and hackathons. The deadlines are brutal, and last Thursday I was stuck at my desk, chugging Red Bull, trying to fix a bug in our app before the big release. My eyes were burning, my head was foggy, and around 10 p.m., I just passed out, face first on my keyboard. When I woke up, the office was dead quiet. No hum of computers, no chatter from the late-night crew. Just this low buzz from the fluorescent lights overhead. I blinked at my phone, 30 a.m. Crap, I muttered, rubbing my neck. The screen showed 5% battery, and get this, no signal. Not even one bar. Weird, because we're in downtown Seattle, not some backwoods cabin. I stood up, my chair squeaking loud enough to make me flinch. The office looked off. The lights were dimmer, flickering like they were about to die. Shadows stretched across the cubicles, twisting in ways that didn't make sense. My desk was a mess: empty Red Bull cans, a half-eaten bag of Cheetos, and my laptop, still open to the code I'd been wrestling with. I grabbed my phone and headed for the exit, figuring I'd just call an Uber and crash at home. But the main doors were locked. Not just locked, bolted, with a keypad that blinked red when I punched in my code. "You've got to be kidding me," I said, yanking the handle. Nothing. I tried the stairwell door, same deal. Locked tight. The elevators, dead. No lights. No buttons. Nothing. My heart started to pound. I was trapped on the 12th floor, alone, in a building that suddenly felt way too big. "Okay, Ethan, chill," I told myself. "There's gotta be a way out." I walked back to the main office, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. The air felt heavy, like right before a storm. That's when I heard it, a faint tapping, like someone typing on a keyboard, coming from the cubicles across the room. I froze. "Hello," I called, my voice sounding small. No answer. Just more tapping, steady, deliberate. I grabbed a stapler from a desktop, I know, but it felt better than nothing, and crept toward the sound. The cubicles were dark, monitors off, chairs tucked in neat. But at the far end, one screen was glowing. My stomach dropped. I hadn't turned that on. I got closer, and the tapping stopped, like whoever it was heard me coming. The screen was blank except for one line, in big, blocky letters. "Welcome back, Ethan." I stumbled back, my breath catching. "No way, dude," I whispered, hitting the power button. The screen went black, but the words burned into my head. How did it know my name? I spun around, half expecting someone to jump out, but the office was empty. Just me, the flickering lights, and that creepy buzz. I needed to get out, like yesterday. I checked my phone, again 4% now. No signal, no Wi-Fi. I thought about calling 911, but with no bars, that was a bust. I started searching desks, looking for a key, a badge, anything. Most were locked or empty, just pens and sticky notes. But in one drawer belonged to some guy named Greg. Judging by the employee of the month sticker, I found something weird. A small leather notebook, old and worn, with rules to survive Syntec after midnight, scrawled on the cover in shaky handwriting. I opened it, my hands trembling. The pages were yellowed, some stained with what looked like coffee or something. Worse, the first page had a list, written in black ink. Don't look at computer screens after 1 a.m. They're watching. If you hear a ringing phone, don't answer it. It's not for you. The security guard, Mr. Dawson, isn't what he seems. Don't look him in the eyes. Stay out of the server room between 2 o'clock to 3 a.m. Something moves in there. If someone joins you, check their reflection in the glass. No reflection, no trust. I stared at the words, my mouth dry. What the hell? Is this? I muttered. It sounded like a prank, but the handwriting was desperate, like whoever wrote it was scared out of their mind. I flipped through the pages, finding more note stuff about the project, the boundary, and someone named Rachel. One line was circled in red. If you're reading this, it's too late. My phone buzzed, making me jump. The screen showed 3% battery, then died. Great. I shoved the notebook in my pocket and headed for the break room, thinking maybe the vending machine had a signal booster or something. The office felt colder now, the shadows sharper. Every step echoed, like the place was listening. When I reached a break room, I stopped dead. The vending machine was on, glowing bright, but it wasn't selling snacks. The display flickered, showing my face like a security feed, but I wasn't near any cameras. My reflection stared back, eyes wide, then glitched, my face twisting into something wrong. I backed away, heart racing, and the machine spat out a can of Red Bull, rolling across the floor. I didn't touch it. No way. I turned to leave, but then I heard its slow, heavy footsteps coming from the hallway. Not sneakers, not heels, but something deliberate, like boots. A beam of light swept across the wall, a flashlight. Someone was out there. I ducked behind a couch, clutching the notebook, my breath shallow. The footsteps got closer, and a low voice called out, "Ethan, you still here, kid?" It sounded like a security guard, but the tone was off to calm too. Hungry. The flashlight beam cut through the break room, and I saw the edge of a uniform, a name tag glinting. Dawson. My blood ran cold. Rule 3. The security guard, Mr. Dawson, isn't what he seems. I stayed still, praying he wouldn't see me, as the footsteps stopped right outside the door. I crouched behind the couch in the break room, my heart slamming against my ribs. The footsteps stopped right outside the door, and that flashlight beam sliced through the darkness, creeping across the vending machine. Mr. Dawson's voice came again, low and creepy, like he was talking to a kid. "Ethan, come on out, kid. It's just me, checking the floor." No way was I falling for that. Rule 3 in the notebook burned in my brain. The security guard, Mr. Dawson, isn't what he seems. Don't look him in the eyes. I clutched the leather notebook tighter, my palms sweaty, the name tag glinting on his uniform. Dawson felt like a warning. I held my breath, praying he'd move on. The flashlight lingered, then swung away. The footsteps started again, slower this time, fading down the hallway. I waited, counting to 10 in my head. until the only sound was that damn buzzing from the fluorescent lights. I peeked over the couch. The break room was empty, the vending machine dark again, that Red Bull can still lying on the floor like nothing happened. I let out a shaky breath. "Okay, Ethan, you're good," I whispered, but my hands were still trembling. I needed to figure out what was going on, and fast. My phone was dead, the doors were locked, and now some creepy security guard was stalking the halls. That notebook was my only shot at answers. I flipped it open, using the dim light from a coffee machine to read. The rules were written in jagged handwriting, like someone was in a hurry. I reread them. Don't look at screens after 1 a.m. Don't answer ringing phones. Stay away from the server room between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. And that bit about checking reflections. If someone didn't have won, I was supposed to run. The whole thing sounded like a bad horror movie. But after that screen with my name and the vending machine glitching my face, I wasn't taking chances. I checked my watch. 12:50 a.m. 10 minutes until the don't look at screens rule kicked in. I needed a plan. The break room had a Keurig, a fridge stuffed with yogurt and energy drinks, and a Syntech Hackathon 2023 poster on the wall, but no keys or badges. I thought about breaking a window, but we were 12 floors up, and I wasn't Spider-Man then. I heard it a faint hum, like a phone vibrating, coming from the main office. I froze, my stomach twisting. Rule 2. If you hear a ringing phone, don't answer it. It's not for you. But this wasn't ringing, just buzzing, over and over. Maybe it was someone else's phone, someone who could help. Or maybe it was a trap. I didn't know, but sitting here wasn't getting me out. I stuffed the notebook in my hoodie pocket and crept out of the break room, sticking to the shadows. The office was a maze of cubicles, monitors dark, chairs tucked in like nothing was. Wrong. The buzzing got louder as I moved, coming from the sales team's corner. I kept my head low, scanning for that flashlight beam, but the hallways were empty. When I reached the sales cubicles, I saw it a desk phone, old school, with a curly cord vibrating against the wood. The display glowed red, showing unknown caller. I stared, my pulse racing. The notebook said not to answer, but what if it was security, or someone stuck like me? I reached for the receiver, then yanked my hand back. "No way, dude," I muttered. The buzzing stopped, and for a second I thought I was clear. Then the phone rang. Loud, shrill, echoing through the office. I jumped, my sneaker squeaking on the floor. The sound cut through the silence, and I swear it felt like the whole building was listening. I backed away, but the ringing followed me, bouncing off the walls. Then another phone joined in, then another, until every desk phone in the office was screaming. I bolted, ducking into a cubicle, my chest heaving. The ringing stopped all at once, like someone flipped a switch. But now there was something worse, a low, giggling sound, like a kid laughing, coming from the overhead speakers. It wasn't loud, but it was everywhere, crawling under my skin. I remembered the notebook, my hands shaking as I pulled it out. There wasn't a rule about laughter, but it felt wrong, like the building was messing with me. I needed to move. The phones, the vending machine, that screen with my name, this place wasn't just locked down. It was alive, or something was controlling it. I headed for the pantry, thinking maybe I could find a crowbar or something to pry open a door. The office felt colder now, the air thick, like I was walking through fog. My watch said 1:05 a.m. I'd missed the screen rule cutoff, so I kept my eyes down, avoiding every monitor. When I reached the pantry, I stopped dead. 2 people were inside, huddled by the fridge, whispering. A girl, maybe 20, with a messy ponytail, and a Syntec intern badge, and a guy, older, maybe 40, in a wrinkled button-up, looking like he hadn't slept in days. They jumped when they saw me, the girl letting out a yelp. Whoa, whoa, it's cool, I said, raising my hands. I'm Ethan, I work here. You guys stuck too? The girl nodded, her eyes wide. I'm Sarah, intern. I was finishing a report, and the doors locked. I thought I was alone. Her voice shook, and she kept glancing at the door. The older guy crossed his arms, sizing me up. Mike, project manager, been here since the early days. You see anything weird out there, kid? I laughed, but it came out shaky. Yeah. Phones ringing, screens turning on, and some security guard creeping around. Mike's face tightened, but he didn't answer. Sarah hugged herself, muttering, "This place is cursed, I swear." I pulled out the notebook, holding it up. Found this. It's got rules, like how to survive tonight. Says not to answer phones or look at screens after 1 a.m., and something about a guard named Mr. Dawson. Sarah's eyes widened. Mr. Dawson, I saw him earlier on the security cams. He was just standing there, staring at the camera. I turned it off. Mike snorted. Rules. Sounds like a prank, but I'll bite. What else does it say? I opened the notebook to read, but before I could, a screen on the wall flickered on. My heart sank. It was one of those smart TVs we used for presentations, glowing bright in the dark pantry. The display showed me, not a reflection, but a video feed, like I was being recorded right now, standing in the pantry, except my eyes were wrong blank. White, like static, Sarah gasped, backing into the fridge. Mike cursed under his breath. I lunged for the power button, slamming it so hard the TV shook. The screen went black, but not before I saw my image, smiler slow. Creepy grin that wasn't mine. We gotta get out of here, I said, my voice barely steady. There's gotta be a way to the stairs or an emergency exit. Mike nodded, grabbing a flashlight from a shelf. Stairwells by the server room. But we need a badge to get through. I know where they keep spares in the storage closet, other side of the floor. Sarah looked like she was gonna cry, but she nodded. Okay, but we stick together, right? I glanced at them, remembering Rule 5. Check their reflection in the glass. No reflection, no trust. The pantry had a glass door reflecting the room. I looked at Sarah's reflection, clear, normal. Then Mike's. His was fuzzy, like a bad signal. My stomach twisted, but I didn't say anything. Not yet. All right, I said, gripping the notebook. Let's move. We stepped into the hallway, Mike's flashlight cutting through the dark. The office was dead quiet, but as we passed the cubicles, that giggling came back, louder now, pouring from the speakers. It wasn't a kid anymore. It sounded wrong, like 100 voices layered together, echoing in the walls. The giggling from the overhead speakers wasn't just creepy, it was wrong, like a chorus of voices mashed together, some high, some deep, all out of sync. It filled the hallway, bouncing off the glass walls of Syntec's office, making my skin crawl. I gripped the notebook in my hoodie pocket, my other hand sweaty round the stapler I'd grabbed earlier. Sarah was right behind me, her breathing shaky, and Mike led the way, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark. We were headed for the storage closet to find a badge for the stairwell, but those laughs made every step feel like a mistake. Keep moving, guys, Mike said, his voice low but steady. It's probably just a glitch in the system. A glitch, Sarah snapped, her voice cracking. That's no glitch, Mike. That's something else. I didn't say anything, but I agreed with her. This wasn't a tech issue. The vending machine showing my face, the phones ringing, that TV with my creepy grins in tech was messed up, and that notebook in my pocket was proof. Rule 5 kept nagging at me. If someone joins you, check their reflection in the glass. No reflection. No trust. Mike's reflection in the pantry had been fuzzy, like a bad TV signal. I glanced at him now, his broad shoulders blocking half the hallway. Was he even human? We passed a row of cubicles, the monitors dark, but I swore I saw one flicker in the corner of my eye. I kept my head down, remembering Rule 1, don't look. At computer screens after 1 a.m., they're watching. My watch said 1:15 a.m. We were deep in the danger zone. The giggling stopped, sudden, like someone hit mute. The silence was worse, heavy, like the air was pressing down on us. Sarah grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. Ethan, you hear that? She whispered. I listened. Nothing at first, then a faint hum, like static, coming from the end of the hallway. Mike swung his flashlight, and the beam caught something, a smartboard on the wall, glowing faintly. My stomach dropped. Don't look at it, I said, pulling Sarah back. The rules say no screens. Mike snorted, stepping closer to the board. Relax, kid. It's just a presentation screen, probably left on. He tapped the power button, but instead of shutting off, the screen flared brighter, showing us me, Sarah, and Mike, standing in the hallway, like a live feed. But the angle was wrong, too high, like it was shot from the ceiling, and our faces, they were off. My eyes were too wide, Sarah's mouth was stretched in a scream, and Mike's face was just blank. Sarah yelped, stumbling back. I grabbed her before she fell, my heart racing. Mike, turn it off, I shouted. He hit the button again, harder, but the screen didn't budge. The image glitched, and now it showed us running, like we were being chased, even though we were standing still. Then the giggling started again, louder, coming from the screen itself. I lunged forward, yanking the power cord from the wall. The screen went black, and the laughter cut off. What the hell was that? Sarah said, her voice trembling. She was shaking, her intern badge dangling loose. Mike just shrugged, like it was no big deal. Old wiring, let's keep going. But his calm was starting to freak me out. Nobody should be that chill right now. We reached the storage closet, a small room tucked behind the copy machine. The door was ajar, which felt like a trap, but we didn't have a choice. Mike pushed it open, shining his flashlight inside. Shelves of office supplies, paper, toner, a box of Syntec branded pens lined the walls. But on a table in the corner, I saw something else, a USB drive labeled Rachel Echelon Backup. Yo, check this out, I said, grabbing the USB. It felt cold, heavier than it should have been. The name Rachel rang a bell. She was mentioned in the notebook, some kind of warning. Sarah peered over my shoulder. Echelon, isn't that the AI project they scrapped a few years back? I heard it was a disaster. Mike's eyes narrowed, but he didn't say anything. I shoved the USB in my pocket with the notebook. We'll figure it out later. Let's find that badge. We rummaged through the shelves, tossing aside binders and cables. Sarah found a stack of old employee files, and I spotted a badge clipped to one blue with level 3 access printed on it. Got it, I said, holding it up. It had a photo of some guy named Greg, probably the same Greg whose desk I'd raided, but as I turned to leave, Sarah gasped, pointing at the files. "Ethan, look at this." She held up a printout, an email dated 2016, from someone named Rachel Carter. The subject line read, "Echelon must be stopped." I scanned it, my hands shaking. It said Syntech had been working on an AI called Echelon to tap into a deeper layer of consciousness. But something went wrong, people started disappearing. And Rachel wrote about a boundary in the basement, a place where something else was watching. The last line was chilling. "If you're reading this, get out before it takes you to." I looked at Sarah, her face pale. "This is bad, right?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said, my mouth dry. "Really bad." Mike cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "Old news. Echelon was a bust, shut down years ago. Let's focus on getting to the stairwell." But I wasn't buying his act. That email, the notebook, the name Rachel, it all connected. Syntech wasn't just a startup, it was hiding something dark. I checked the glass door of the closet, catching our reflections. Sarah's was clear, but Mike's, it was still fuzzy, like he was fading. I gripped the badge tighter, my gut screaming to ditch him, but we needed his flashlight, and I wasn't ready to call him out. Not yet. We left the closet, heading for the stairwell near the server room. The hallway felt tighter. Now, the lights flickering more than before. My watch said 1:30 a.m., halfway to the server room's danger zone from Rule 4. I kept the badge in one hand, the stapler in the other, ready for anything. Then it happened. A loud clunk echoed from the server room ahead, like a heavy door slamming. Sarah grabbed my arm, her nails digging in again. "What was that?" she hissed. Mike swung his flashlight, but the beam barely reached the server room door. "Probably the AC unit," he said, but his voice wasn't as steady now. I shook my head. "No way, dude. That wasn't a C." I pulled out the notebook, flipping to Rule 4. Stay out of the server room between 2 o'clock to 3 a.m. Something moves in there. It was too early for that, but this place didn't care about rules anymore. Before we could move, the giggling started again, but this time it wasn't from the speakers. It was coming from the server room, sharp and childish, like a kid playing hide-and-seek. But there was something else mixed in, a low, guttural hum, like a machine trying to talk. The server room door creaked open an inch, just enough to show a sliver of darkness inside. Sarah backed up, bumping into a cubicle. "Ethan, we can't go that way," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Mike stepped forward, flashlight shaking slightly. "We need that stairwell. It's right past the server room. You want to stay here all night?" I looked at the door, then at Mike. His reflection in a nearby glass panel was worse now, blurry, like he was dissolving. My heart pounded, but we were out of options. "Fine," I said, swallowing hard. "But we move fast, and nobody goes in that room." We crept forward, the giggling growing louder, the hum vibrating in my chest. As we passed the server room, I saw something on a monitor through the open door, a live feed of us walking down the hallway, but from behind, like something was following us. I stood frozen, staring at the monitor through the cracked open server room door. The screen showed me, Sarah and Mike walking down the hallway, but from behind, like something was trailing us. My heart slammed against my chest, and my mouth went dry. The giggling from inside the room, high-pitched, mixed with that creepy machine-like hum made my skin crawl. Sarah was clutching my arm so tight it hurt, and Mike's flashlight shook in his hand, the beam bouncing off the glass walls. "Ethan, we gotta go," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. "That thing's watching us." "No kidding," I muttered, backing away from the door. Rule 4 was screaming in my head. Stay out of the server room between Doistres am. Something moves in there. My watch said 1:40 a.m., not quite the danger zone, but close enough. Whatever was in there, I wasn't about to find out. Mike, though, didn't move. He stared at the door, his face unreadable. "The stairwell's right past this room," he said, his voice too calm for the situation. "We can't go back. You want to be stuck here all night?" I shot him a look. His reflection in the glass panel nearby was still blurry, like he was half there. Rule 5, no reflection, no trust was starting to feel real. "No way, dude," I said, gripping the badge and stapler. "That room's bad news. We'll find another way." Sarah nodded, her eyes wide. "Yeah, Mike, come on. This place is freaking me out." Mike's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. "Fine, but don't cry to me when we're still trapped by morning." He turned, leading us back down the hallway, away from the server room. The giggling faded, but that hum lingered, vibrating in my bones. We moved fast, sticking close, the flashlight cutting through the dark. The office felt different now, like the walls were closing in. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting weird shadows that moved when they shouldn't. I kept checking behind us, half expecting that thing from the screen to jump out. The notebook in my hoodie pocket felt heavier, like it was trying to tell me something. "We need answers," I said, pulling out the USB drive I'd found in the storage closet. "This Rachel chick knew something about Echelon. Maybe it's got a clue about what's going on." Sarah glanced at the USB, her face pale. "You think it's safe to check? What if it's, I dunno, infected or something?" "Infected?" Mike snorted, but his eyes flicked to the USB, sharp, like he didn't want me touching it. "It's just a drive, kid. Don't get paranoid." I ignored him. Paranoid was the only thing keeping me alive right now. "There's got to be a laptop." "In the conference room," I said. "We'll boot it up, check the drive, and keep moving." The conference room was across the floor, past the break room. We hustled through the cubicles, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. The air was colder, the buzzing from the lights louder, like a swarm of bees in my head. I checked my watch, 1:50 a.m. Time was slipping away, and I had a bad feeling. We were running out of it. When we reached the conference room, I locked the door behind us. The room was big, with a long table, a smartboard, and a Syntec Innovation 2016 poster on the wall. A laptop sat on the table, plugged in, screen dark. I hesitated, remembering Rule 1 about screens, but we needed answers, and the USB was our best shot. "Sarah, keep an eye on the door," I said, setting the laptop up. "Mike, you got the flashlight on the hallway?" Mike nodded, but he stood too close, his shadow looming over me. I didn't like it. I plugged in the USB, and the laptop hummed to life, the Syntec logo flashing on the screen. A folder popped up, Echelon_backup_Rachel C. Inside were a bunch of files, documents, logs, and a video labeled final_warning.mp4. Jackpot. I muttered, clicking the video. Sarah leaned in, her breath shaky, and even Mike stepped closer, his flashlight dipping. The video started. Grainy, showing a woman in her 30s, dark hair pulled back, sitting in what looked like a lab. Her face was tense, eyes darting like she was scared of being caught. "My name's Rachel Carter," she said, her voice low. "If you're watching this, you're in danger." Syntax Echelon Project wasn't just AI. We were trying to tap into something else, a deeper consciousness, a boundary between our world and something older. But we opened a door we couldn't close. The Watcher, it's here, in the basement, in the servers. It takes people, changes them. If you're stuck here after midnight, follow the rules. Don't trust the guard. Don't. The video cut off, replaced by static, then my face, my real face, not some glitch staring back from the screen. I yelled, slamming the laptop shut, my heart pounding. "What the hell?" Sarah backed away, knocking over a chair. "Ethan, it's watching us," like Rachel said. Mike didn't move, just stared at the laptop, his face blank. "Old video," he said, but his voice was off, like he was reciting a script. "Doesn't mean anything." I wasn't buying it. That video, the email from the storage closet, the notebook, it all pointed to something real. The Watcher, whatever it was in this building, and we were caught in its game. I grabbed the USB, shoving it back in my pocket. "We need to get to the basement," I said. Rachel said that's where it started. "Maybe there's a way to shut it down." Sarah shook her head, tears in her eyes. "The basement? Are you crazy? That's where it lives." "We don't have a choice," I snapped, then softened my voice. "Look, Sarah, we're not safe here either. We gotta try." Mike nodded, too quick. "Kid's right. Basement's our best shot. I know a service elevator that might work." I didn't trust him, not with that blurry reflection and the way he kept pushing us forward. But the stairwell was past the server room and the service. Elevator might be safer. I checked the glass door of the conference room, catching our reflections. Sarah's was clear, but Mike's was worse. Now half his face was gone, like a smudged drawing. My gut screamed to ditch him, but we needed his flashlight, and I wasn't ready to confront him yet. "All right," I said, clutching the badge. "Service elevator. But we stick together and we move fast." We left the conference room, the hallway darker now, the lights flickering like a dying heartbeat. My watch said 2:05 a.m. past the server room's danger zone, but the elevator was on the other side of the floor. We moved quietly, the only sound our footsteps and that buzzing from the lights. I kept the stapler ready, my eyes scanning every shadow. Then I heard it, a low, scraping sound, like metal dragging across the floor, coming from the direction of the server room. Sarah froze, her hand on my arm. "Ethan, what's that?" she whispered. Mike swung his flashlight, but the beam didn't reach far enough. "Just the building settling," he said, but his voice cracked, and I saw sweat on his forehead. "No way," I said, my voice shaking. "That's not the building." The scraping got louder, closer, and then the server room door slammed open, the sound echoing like a gunshot. A cold draft hit us, carrying that same machine-like hum, and the giggling started again, sharp and wild. But this time, it wasn't alone. Heavy footsteps followed, deliberate, like boots on concrete, and a flashlight beam not Mike's weapon. Across the hallway, "Ethan," a voice called, low and hungry. "Time's up, kid." It was Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson's voice cut through the hallway like a knife, low and hungry. "Ethan, time's up, kid." His flashlight beam swept closer, pinning us like deer in headlights. The server room door was still cracked open behind us, that creepy, giggling and machine hums spilling out. But now we had a bigger problem. Rule 3 burned in my head. The security guard, Mr. Dawson, isn't what he seems. Don't look him in the eyes. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it'd burst, and Sarah's grip on my arm was bruising. Run, I hissed, shoving Sarah toward the cubicles. She stumbled but caught herself, sprinting beside me. Mike was already moving, his flashlight bouncing wildly as we dove into the maze of desks. The heavy footsteps followed slow, deliberate, like Dawson wasn't even trying to catch up. That scared me more than if he'd been running. We ducked behind a row of cubicles, crouching low. I clutched the notebook and the level 3 badge, my hands sweaty. Sarah was hyperventilating, her intern badge dangling loose, and Mike was breathing hard, his face half lit by the flashlight. I checked the glass partition nearby, catching our reflections. Sarah's was clear, but Mike's was worse than ever blurry, like a photo out of focus. Rule 5 was screaming at me. No reflection, no trust. Ethan, what do we do? Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with panic. I said, holding a finger to my lips. Dawson's footsteps were closer now, the flashlight beam sweeping over. The cubicles. I peeked through a gap in the desks, and my stomach dropped. He was standing in the hallway, maybe 20 feet away, his head tilted like he was listening. His uniform was crisp, name tag glinting. But something was off. His shadow on the wall was too long, with extra limbs that didn't match his body. We can't stay here, Mike muttered, his voice low. Service elevators that way. He pointed past the cubicles, toward a corner of the floor I'd never noticed before. We used the badge, we're out. I didn't trust him, not with that reflection, not with the way he kept pushing us. But Dawson was closing in, and the server room was a no-go. Fine, I whispered, but stay close. We crept along the cubicles, keeping low, the fluorescent lights flickering like they were mocking us. My watch said to 15 a.m. deep in the server room's danger zone, but we were steering clear of that nightmare. The giggling had stopped, but the air felt heavy, like the building was holding its breath. Every step made my sneakers squeak, and I winced, expecting Dawson to hear Dotson, to hear we. Reached the edge of the cubicles, the service elevator just across an open stretch of hallway. The door was unmarked, with a badge reader blinking red. I pulled out the level 3 badge, ready to swipe, when Sarah grabbed my arm. Ethan, look, she whispered, pointing at a desk nearby. Papers were moving slowly, like they were floating. In water, pens rolled off the desk, one by one, hitting the floor with soft clinks. A Syntec-branded coffee mug slid an inch, then stopped, like something invisible was playing with it. My blood ran cold. This wasn't Dawson. This was something else. What the hell? I muttered, backing away. Sarah was trembling, and even Mike looked spooked, his flashlight shaking. It's just the AC. Mike said, but his voice was tight, and I wasn't buying it. The air was still, no vents humming. Whatever was moving those papers wasn't natural. Before I could say anything, Dawson's voice echoed again, closer now. Ethan, you can't hide forever. His flashlight beam swung toward us, and I saw his silhouette, tall, too tall, his head twitching like it wasn't attached right. Go, I snapped, shoving Sarah toward the elevator. We sprinted across the hallway, my heart in my throat. I swiped the badge, the reader flashing green, and the elevator doors groaned open. We piled inside, Mike slamming the close button. The doors started to shut, but not before I saw Dawson step into the hallway, his face hidden in shadow except for 2 glinting points where his eyes should have been. The elevator lurched. Downward, the lights inside flickering. Sarah was crying now, hugging herself. "He's not human, Ethan. He's not." "I know," I said, my voice shaky. I pulled out the notebook, flipping through it for anything about moving objects. Nothing, but I remembered the USB in my pocket, the echelon files, Rachel's warning. We needed more answers, and fast. The elevator stopped with a jolt, the display showing B1 for basement. The doors opened to a dark, concrete hallway, colder than the office upstairs. It smelled like dust and something sharp, like burnt metal. Mike stepped out first, his flashlight sweeping the walls, which were covered in old Syntec posters. "Innovation starts here. Echelon, the future of consciousness." Creepy as hell. "We need to find the lab," I said, clutching the USB. "Rachel," said the watchers, "down here. If we can figure out what Echelon did, maybe we can stop this." Sarah wiped her eyes, nodding. "Okay, but we stay away from that guard, right?" "Right," I said, but I was watching Mike. He was too eager, already heading down the hallway like he knew where to go. "Mike, you've been down here before?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. He glanced back, his smile thin. "Couple times. Back in the day, old storage, nothing special." But his eyes didn't match his words, and that blurry reflection was stuck in my head. We followed him, the hallway stretching on, the posters giving way to bare concrete. Then Sarah stopped, pointing at a door labeled records. "Ethan, maybe there's something in there," she said, "like files about Echelon or Dawson." I nodded. "Good call. Let's check it out." Mike hesitated, his flashlight dipping. Waste of time. The lab's further down. I ignored him, pushing the door open. The records room was small, packed with filing cabinets and boxes. A single bulb flickered overhead, barely lighting the place. Sarah started digging through a cabinet, and I joined her, pulling out folders labeled Echelon Project, classified. One caught my RJ personnel file for Henry Dawson, security. I opened it, my hands shaking. The photo showed a guy in his 50s, same uniform, same name tag. But the file said he died in a fire in the basement, 2015. "Guys, look at this," I said, holding it up. "Dawson's been dead for 10 years. Sarah gasped, dropping a folder. "Then who's out there?" Mike didn't say anything, just stared at the file, his face unreadable. I checked his reflection in a dusty glass cabinet, barely there now, just a smudge. My gut was screaming to run, but before I could move, the bulb overhead flickered, and the papers in the room started to shift, sliding off shelves like they were alive. "Ethan!" Sarah yelled, as a pen flew across the room, grazing her cheek. I grabbed her, pulling her behind a cabinet. Mike backed up, his flashlight shaking, but he didn't look scared, just focused, like he was waiting for something. The door to the records room slammed shut, and the flickering bulb went out, plunging us into darkness. Then, from the other side of the door, I heard that low, hungry voice again. "Ethan, you're making this harder than it needs to be." But it wasn't Dawson this time. The voice was different, deeper, like it was coming from the walls themselves. The air turned ice cold, and the papers stopped moving. In the darkness, a faint glow appeared, not from Mike's flashlight, but from a crack in the wall, of pulsing blue light, like something was trying to break through. The records room was pitch black, except for that eerie blue glow pulsing from a crack in the wall. The air was freezing, like we'd stepped into a meat locker, and the voice from the other side of the door, deep, rumbling like it was part of the building still, echoed in my head. "Ethan, you're making this harder than it needs to be." It wasn't Mr. Dawson, not this time. Whatever it was, it felt bigger, older, and way scarier. My heart was pounding, my hands clutching the notebook and the level 3 badge so tight. My knuckles hurt. Sarah was crouched beside me, her breath coming in short gasps, and Mike stood by the door, his flashlight useless against the glow. "What the hell is that?" Sarah whispered, staring at the crack. The light flickered like a heartbeat, casting shadows that didn't match anything in the room. Papers littered the floor, frozen mid-slide from whatever had moved them earlier. "No clue," I said, my voice shaky. "But we're not sticking around to find out." I glanced at the door, expecting it to burst open, but it stayed shut, for now. The notebook in my pocket felt like a lifeline, but it didn't have a rule for glowing walls or creepy voices. I checked my watch, 2:25 a.m. We were deep in the server room's danger zone upstairs, and down here in the basement, things were only getting worse. Mike turned, his face half lit by the blue glow. "We need to keep moving," he said, his voice too calm, like he wasn't fazed by the voice or the light. "The lab's down the hall. That's where the answers are." I didn't trust him, not one bit. His reflection in the glass cabinet was barely there now, just a smudge where his face should have been. Rule 5 was screaming. No reflection, no trust. But we were trapped, and Mike had the flashlight. I needed to play it smart. "Yeah, okay," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "But we check this room first. There's got to be more about Echelon here." Sarah nodded, already digging through the scattered files. "Good idea. Rachel's stuff keeps showing up. Maybe she left something else." Mike's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He aimed his flashlight at the shelves, but his eyes kept flicking to the glowing crack, like he was waiting for something. I didn't like it. I stayed close to Sarah, helping her sift through papers. Most were boring budget reports, employee schedules, but then I found a folder labeled Echelon Test Logs. Inside was a handwritten note, same shaky handwriting as the notebook. It read, "The Watcher isn't AI, it's alive. It sees through the screens, moves through the wires. We open the boundary in the lab, destroy the core, or it takes us. All Rachel." My stomach dropped. "Sarah, look at this," I said, holding up the note. "Rachel says there's a core in the lab. Maybe that's what we need to shut down." She read it, her hands trembling. "Destroy it. Ethan, we don't even know what it is." "We'll figure it out," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. I shoved the note in my pocket with the USB and notebook. The glowing crack pulsed faster now, the hum growing louder, like a machine waking up. I glanced at Mike, who was standing too close to the crack, his flashlight pointed at the floor. "Mike, you good?" I asked, my voice sharp. He turned, his smile thin. "Never better, kid." But his eyes were wrong too bright, like they were reflecting the blue glow. I checked his reflection again, nothing, just a faint outline. My gut screamed to run, but we needed to get out of this room first. "Let's go," I said, grabbing Sarah's arm. "We'll hit the lab, but we're not rushing in blind." As we moved toward the door, the papers on the floor stirred again, rustling like leaves in a storm. A pen shot across the room, slamming into the wall with a crack. Sarah yelped, ducking behind a cabinet. I pulled her up, my heart racing. "It's happening again," she said, her voice breaking. The blue glow flared, and the crack in the wall widened just an inch, but enough to show. Something, a shadow, moved inside, not human, not anything I could name. It was tall, jagged, like a glitch in reality, and it was watching us. The hum turned into a low growl, vibrating in my chest, and the voice came again. Not from the door, but from the crack itself. "Ethan, stay." "No way, dude," I shouted, yanking the door open. The lock clicked, like whatever was holding. It let go. We stumbled into the hallway, Mike right behind us, his flashlight swinging wildly. The records room door slammed shut, muffling the growl, but the blue glow seeped through the cracks, lighting up the concrete. We ran, the hallway stretching. On, the old Syntec posters peeling from the walls. My sneakers slapped the floor, Sarah's breathing ragged beside me. Mike kept pace, but he was too quiet. His flashlight pointed ahead like he knew exactly where we were going. I didn't trust him, not after that reflection, not after the way. He looked at the crack. "Slow down," I said, grabbing Sarah's arm as we reached a fork in the hallway. One path led to a door marked Lab B3, the other to a stairwell going deeper. "We need to think this through." Mike stopped, his flashlight steady on the lab door. "Lab's our best bet," he said, his voice flat. "That's where Echelon started. You want answers, that's where you get M." Sarah shook her head, tears in her eyes. "Ethan, I don't like this. He's pushing us too hard." I nodded, keeping my eyes on Mike. "Yeah, I'm with you. Mike, what's your deal? You know more than you're saying." He laughed, but it was hollow. "You're paranoid, kid. I just want to get out, same as you." "Then why's your reflection gone?" I snapped, pointing at a glass panel on the wall. His reflection was a faint smear, barely human. Sarah gasped, stepping back, and Mike's smile faded, his eyes narrowing. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his voice was different, now sharper, like he was hiding something. Before I could push further, the hallway shook, a low rumble like an earthquake. The blue glow from the records room flared, spilling down the corridor, and the lab door creaked open on its own, revealing a dark room filled with old servers and a faint pulsing light at the far end. The hum was back, louder, and the giggling started again, but this time it was closer, coming from inside the lab. Sarah grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. "Ethan, we can't go in there." I wanted to agree, but the stairwell led deeper, and we didn't know what was down there. The lab was our only shot at finding Rachel's core. I pulled out the notebook, flipping to her note, "Destroy the core, or it takes us all." "We have to," I said, my voice trembling. "If we don't stop this, we're done." Mike stepped toward the lab, his flashlight steady now. "Smart choice, kid. Let's move." I didn't move, watching his back. He was too eager, like he wanted us in there. The blue glow pulsed again, and from the lab, that shadow I'd seen in the crack appeared tall, jagged, moving like a glitch across the server racks. It didn't have a face, but I swear it was looking right at me, its edges flickering like bad code. The voice came again, not from the walls, but from the shadow itself, soft and cold. "Ethan, come closer." The shadow in the lab loomed over the server racks, its jagged edges flickering like a glitch on a busted screen. That voice, soft, cold, calling my name sent a shiver down my spine. "Ethan, come closer." It wasn't human, not even close. The air in the hallway felt like ice, and the blue glow from the lab pulsed faster, matching the hum that vibrated in my chest. Sarah was shaking beside me, her nails digging into my arm, and Mike stood to still, his flashlight pointed at the lab door like he was drawn to it. My gut screamed to run, But Rachel's note was clear. Destroy the core, or it takes us all. No way we're going in there, Sarah whispered, her voice cracking. Her eyes were wide, locked on the shadow. Ethan, that thing's gonna kill us. I wanted to agree, but the notebook in my pocket and the USB from Rachel were all we had. The core, whatever it was in that lab, and if we didn't stop it, we were toast. I checked my watch. 2:35 a.m. Time was running out, and the stairwell to the lower levels wasn't an option. Not with that voice, and the way the building was messing with us. We don't have a choice, I said, my voice barely steady. Rachel said the core's in there. We destroy it, maybe this stops. Mike nodded, his smile thin and creepy in the blue glow. Kid's right, lab's where it's at. Let's do this. His eagerness made my skin crawl. His reflection in the glass panel was gone. Now it's just a blank space where he should have been. Rule 5 was screaming. No reflection, no trust. I needed to test him fast. Hold up, I said, stepping in front of the lab door. Mike, you're pushing this hard. What's your deal? You know something about this watcher thing, don't you? He laughed, but it was forced, like he was reading a script. Paranoid much, Ethan? I'm just trying to get us out. You gonna stand here all night? Sarah backed me up, her voice shaky but firm. He's right, Mike. You're acting weird. Why do you keep pushing us into danger? Mike's eyes narrowed, and for a second, I swore they glinted like the blue light was inside him. You kids are wasting time, he said, stepping closer. The lab's our shot. You want to die down here? I didn't budge. Answer the question, Mike. What do you know? I glanced at the glass panel, making sure he saw it. And why don't you have a reflection? His face froze, and the air got colder. The hum from the lab louder. Sarah gasped, looking at the glass. Ethan, he's not there. Mike's smile vanished. You shouldn't have done that, kid, he said, his voice dropping, almost like the shadows. He lunged for me, but I was ready, swinging the stapler at his hand. It connected with a dull thud, and he hissed, stepping back. His skin looked wrong in the flashlight to pale, like wax. Run, I shouted, grabbing Sarah and bolting into the lab. The door slammed shut behind us, locking with a loud click. Mike pounded on it from the other side, his voice muffled but angry. You can't stop it, Ethan. It needs you. Sarah was crying now, pressed against a server rack. What is he? Ethan, he's not human. I know, I said, my heart racing, but we're in the lab. We find the core, we end this. I scanned the room, my hands shaking. The lab was huge, filled with old servers, CRT monitors, and cables snaking across the floor. The blue glow came from the far end, where a machine, big, cylindrical, covered in blinking lights, sat in a circle of weird symbols etched into the concrete. That had to be the core. The shadow was gone, but the hum was deafening, and the air felt alive, like static before a storm. I pulled out the notebook, flipping to Rachel's note for any clues. Sarah, still shaking, started searching in nearby. Desk, Ethan, look, she said, holding up a journal, its cover marked R. Carter, Echelon. I grabbed it, my hands trembling. The pages were filled with Rachel's handwriting, diagrams of the core, and warnings about the Watcher. One entry stood out. The core powers the boundary, a gate to the Watcher's realm. To destroy it, overload the system with a strong emotional trigger, grief, fear, something real. But beware, The Watcher will fight back. It uses the Taken to guard the gate. Below was a sketch of the core, with a panel for manual override. Grief, Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. What does that mean? I swallowed hard, a knot in my chest. I think it means something personal, like a memory that hurts. My mind flashed to my sister, Lily, who died in a car accident 3 years ago. The guilt still ate at was supposed to pick her up that night, but I was too busy coding. I shook it off, not ready to go there. Let's find that panel. We moved toward the core, the hum so loud it made my teeth ache. The symbols on the floor glowed faintly, pulsing with the machine. I checked the glass on a nearby monitor. Sarah's reflection was clear, but mine flickered, like I was starting to fade. Sarah, you see that? I asked, my voice tight. She nodded, her face pale. Yeah, Ethan, we need to hurry. We reached the core, its lights blinking like eyes. A small panel on the side had a keypad and a slot for a badge. I swiped the Level 3 badge, and the panel beeped, a screen lighting up with manual override. Enter authorization. I typed in echelon, hoping it was that simple, but the screen flashed red, invalid. Damn it, I muttered, trying Watcher. Same result. The hum grew louder, and the symbols on the floor flared, the air crackling with energy. Sarah backed away, clutching Rachel's journal. Ethan, something's coming, she said, her voice trembling. She pointed at the server racks, where the shadow was back, taller now, its edges sharper. It didn't move, just watched, its presence like a weight on my chest. I kept typing Rachel's name, Syntac, anything I could think of, but the panel wouldn't budge. The shadow glided closer, silent, and the temperature dropped, my breath fogging in the air. Sarah screamed, dropping the journal, and I spun around. The stapler raised like it could do anything against that thing. Then the lab door burst open, and Mike stepped inside, his flashlight gone, his eyes glowing blue. You shouldn't have locked me out, Ethan, he said, his voice layered, like multiple people speaking at once. His skin was wrong-cracked, like porcelain, with faint lines of light running through it. He wasn't Mike anymore. He was something else. Sarah grabbed my arm, pulling me behind the core. Ethan, he's one of them. The Taken. I nodded, my heart pounding. Rachel's journal said the Watcher used the Taken people it had claimed to guard the gate. Mike, or whatever he was working for it. I swiped the badge again, desperate, and typed boundary. The panel beeped green, the screen flashing. Override initiated. Emotional trigger required. The shadow lunged, its edges slicing through the air like static. Michael, the thing pretending to be Mike's, stepped closer, his glowing eyes locked on me. You can't close it, Ethan, he said, his voice a growl. The Watcher chose you. I backed away, Sarah clinging to me, the core humming louder, the symbols blazing. The panel's screen blinked, waiting for the trigger. Lily's face flashed in my mind, her laugh, her voice, the crash I couldn't stop. Grief, that's what Rachel meant. But before I could focus, the shadow surged forward, and Mike's hand shot out, grabbing for my throat. Mike's hand shot toward my throat, his fingers cold and hard like stone, glowing with faint blue lines under his cracked skin. I ducked, stumbling into Sarah, who screamed as the shadow surged forward, its jagged edges slicing through the air, like static. The lab was a chaos of noise, the hum from the core, the sizzling cymbals on the floor, and that creepy giggling echoing from nowhere. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking as I gripped the stapler, useless against whatever Mike had become. The core's panel blinked behind us, the screen flashing. Emotional trigger required. Rachel's journal said grief could overload it, and my sister Lily's face was burning in my mind, but I didn't have time to think, not with Mike and that shadow closing in. "Ethan, move," Sarah yelled, shoving me toward the core. She grabbed Rachel's journal from the floor, clutching it like a shield. The shadow loomed over her, its form flickering, no face, just a void that felt like it was staring right through me. Mike, or whatever he was, laughed, a low, layered sound that made my skin crawl. "You can't stop the Watcher, Ethan," he said, his glowing eyes locked on me. "It's already inside you." "No way, dude," I shouted, scrambling to the panel. I swiped the level 3 badge again, the screen still blinking for the trigger. Lily's voice echoed in my head, her laugh, the way she'd begged me to drive her to concerts, the call I ignored the night she died. The guilt hit like a punch, and my eyes stung, but I couldn't focus. Not with Mike lunging again. Sarah threw the journal at him, hitting his chest. It didn't stop him, but it bought us a second. "Ethan, do it," she screamed, backing against a server rack. The shadow turned toward her, its edges sharpening, and I saw her reflection in a monitor flicker, like she was starting to fade. 2. We were running out of time. I slammed my hand on the panel, my mind racing. "Come on, Lily," I whispered, forcing myself to remember. The accident, her car flipping on the highway, the voicemail she left me, cheerful, asking for a ride. I never gave. "I'm sorry," I choked out, tears burning my eyes. The guilt, the pain, it flooded me, raw and heavy, like it was happening all over again. The panel beeped, the screen flashing green. Trigger accepted. Overload initiated. The core roared, the hum turning into a high-pitched whine that made my teeth ache. The symbols on the floor blazed white-hot, and the blue glow pulsed wildly, shaking the lab. Servers sparked, monitors flickered, showing glimpses of Lily's face, then mine, then static. The shadow froze, its form glitching like a bad video feed, and Mike staggered, clutching his head like he was in pain. "It's working," Sarah shouted, but her voice was cut off as the shadow lunged at her, faster than before. She screamed, diving behind a server, but the shadow's edges grazed her arm, and she cried out, clutching it. Her reflection in the monitor was almost gone now, just a faint outline. "Sarah," I yelled, running toward her, but Mike was back on his feet, his cracked face twisted into a grin. "You can't save her, Ethan," he said, his voice a growl. "The Watcher takes what it wants." I swung the stapler at him, aiming for his glowing eyes. It hit his cheek, and he hissed, blue light leaking from the crack like smoke. He grabbed my wrist, his grip crushing, and threw me against a server rack. Pain shot through my back, but I scrambled up, my eyes on the core. The panel was counting. Down, overload, 60 seconds. "Sarah, we gotta hold on," I shouted, dodging Mike as he lunged again. The shadow was circling now, its form splitting into smaller glitches that darted around the lab, knocking over cables and chairs. The air was electric, crackling with energy, and the core's whine was so loud I could barely think. Sarah crawled toward me, her arm shaking, blood seeping through her sleeve where the shadow had touched her. "Ethan, I can't," she gasped, her face pale. "It's in my head, whispering." "No, you're stronger than it," I said, pulling her behind the core. The panel hit 45 seconds, the lab shaking harder, chunks of ceiling dust falling around us. I looked at her arm. The wound wasn't normal, just a dark, staticky patch spreading like a virus. The Watcher was trying to take her. Mike advanced, his body glitching now, parts of him fading in and out. "Give up, Ethan," he said, his voice a chorus of whispers. "Join us, it's easier." "Screw you," I shouted, grabbing a loose cable from the floor and swinging it at him. It caught his leg, tripping him, and he fell, his flashlight skittering across the concrete. The shadow surged toward us, its glitches merging back into one massive form, and I knew we couldn't fight it much longer. Sarah grabbed my hand, her eyes desperate. "Ethan, you have to finish this," she said, her voice weak but fierce. "Get to the panel, I'll hold them off." "What? No way," I said, but she was already moving, picking up a metal chair and hurling it at Mike. It hit his shoulder, slowing him, but the shadow turned on her, its edges wrapping around her like smoke. "Go," she screamed, shoving me toward the core. The panel was at 30 seconds, the whine deafening, the symbols on the floor starting to crack. I ran, my chest tight, tears streaming down my face. Sarah was fighting, swinging another chair at the shadow, but it was too fast, its glitches swallowing her reflection completely. I reached the panel, my hands shaking as I typed the final command. "Confirm overload." The screen flashed. "Warning, core collapse imminent." The lab shook violently, servers exploding in sparks, and the shadow let out a screech that felt like it was tearing my brain apart. My core, the thing he'd become, at me, his glowing eyes wild. But Sarah tackled him, pinning him to the ground. "Ethan, now," she yelled, her voice fading as the shadow engulfed her. I slammed the enter key, and the core erupted in a blinding white light, the whine peaking into a scream. The symbols shattered, the floor buckling, and the shadow dissolved, its glitches scattering like ash dot. Mike collapsed, his body flickering, then going still, the blue light fading from his eyes. Sarah was gone, swallowed by the shadow, her intern badge lying on the cracked concrete. I fell to my knees, sobbing, the pain of losing Lily and now Sarah crushing me. The panel went dark, the hum silent, but the lab was falling apart, ceiling, tiles crashing, walls cracking, the air thick with dust. I grabbed the badge, the notebook, and the USB, my legs shaky as I stumbled toward the lab door. The core was dead, but the building was collapsing, and I didn't know if I'd stopped the Watcher or just pissed it off. As I reached the hallway, the ground shook again, and a new sound started, a low, rhythmic thumping like a heartbeat, coming from deeper in the basement. The blue glow wasn't gone. It was moving, seeping through the walls, and in the distance, I saw it a crack in the concrete, wider than before, pulsing with light. Something was still alive down there, and it wasn't done with me. The basement hallway was collapsing around me, concrete dust choking the air as I ran from the lab. The thumping like a giant heartbeat code in my chest, syncing with the blue glow pulsing from that crack in the wall. My sneakers skidded. On the floor, my hands clutching the notebook, the USB, and the level 3 badge. Sarah was gone, taken by the Watcher, and Michael, whatever he'd become, was probably dead under the rubble. I was alone, my heart pounding with grief and fear, but I had to keep moving. The core was destroyed, but that glow, that sound, it meant the Watcher wasn't done with me. "No way, dude," I gasped, my voice hoarse. "I'm getting out of here." My watch said 2:50 a.m., just a few hours until dawn, when the notebook said the building might let me go. I needed a stairwell, an exit, anything to get back to the surface. The hallway stretched on, dark and cold, the air thick with that burnt metal smell. Old Syntec posters hung in tatters. Their innovation starts here, slogans mocking me. The thumping grew louder, and the blue glow followed, seeping through cracks in the walls like it was alive. I checked my reflection in a cracked glass door feint, flickering like I was fading. "Come on, Ethan, hold it together," I muttered. Forcing myself to focus, I reached a fork in the hallway. One path led to a stairwell marked emergency exit, the other to a door labeled control room B2. The stairwell was my best shot, but the thumping was coming from that direction, and the glow was brighter there, pulsing like a warning. The control room might have answers, maybe another video from Rachel, something to tell me how to escape. I hesitated, then chose the control room. If the Watcher was still alive, I needed to know what I was up against. The door creaked open, revealing a small room packed with old monitors, control panels, and a dusty desk. The air was stale, like nobody had been here in years. A single monitor flickered on as I stepped inside, showing static. Then, my face, again, but distorted, my eyes blank white. I flinched, remembering Rule 1. Don't look at screens after 1 a.m. They're watching. But it was too late. The screen glitched, and Rachel's voice crackled through, faint but urgent. "Ethan, if you're seeing this, you're close," she said, her face appearing through the static. It was another video, recorded in this room, her eyes red from crying. "The core's gone, but the Watcher's stronger than we thought. It's tied to the boundary, a gate in the deepest basement. You can't destroy it, but you can escape. Find the emergency exit, use the badge, and get out before 6 a.m. But don't trust the voices. It'll try to keep you." If you hear the video cut off, replaced by that giggling, sharp and childish, pouring from the monitor speakers. The screen flashed, showing me running through the hallway I'd just left, but from above, like something was watching. I slammed the power button, my hands shaking, but the giggling didn't stop. It was in the walls now, bouncing around the room. "Shut up," I shouted, my voice breaking. The thumping was louder, closer, and the blue glow seeped under the door, lighting up the control room. I rummaged through the desk, desperate for anything useful. Under a pile of papers, I found a crumpled note in Rachel's handwriting. "The Watcher mimics what you love. Don't listen to its lies. The exit is real, but it'll fight to keep you." My stomach twisted. Mimics what you love. I thought of Lily, her voice in my head when I triggered the core. Was that the Watcher, messing with me? I shoved the note in my pocket, my eyes stinging. Sarah's face flashed in my mind, her sacrifice, her badge on the lab floor. I couldn't let her death be for nothing. The control room shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The thumping was right outside now, and the door rattled, like something was trying to get in. I grabbed a heavy flashlight from the desk. Good as Mike's, but better than nothing, and bolted for the back of the room, where a small hatch was labeled maintenance access. It was a long shot, but it might lead to the stairwell. I pried the hatch open, the metal groaning, and crawled inside. The tunnel was tight, lined with pipes, the air damp and sour. My flashlight beam barely cut through the dark, and the thumping followed, echoing in the metal. The giggling was back, softer, like a whisper right behind me. I crawled faster, my knees scraping the concrete, my breath ragged. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, a sub-basement filled with rusted machinery and old Syntec crates. The blue glow was here too, pulsing from a massive crack in the far wall, bigger than the one in the lab. The thumping was deafening, like a heart about to burst, and the air felt heavy, pressing down on me. I checked my reflection in a puddle on the floor, almost gone, just a faint outline. No, 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 I muttered, backing away. Then I heard her, Ethan, a voice, soft, familiar, coming from the crack. It was Lily. My heart stopped. Ethan, I'm here. You can save me. I froze, tears burning my eyes. It couldn't be her. She was gone, 3 years dead. Rachel's note flashed in my mind. The Watcher mimics what you love. You're not her, I said, my voice trembling. You're not Lily. The voice laughed, sweet at first, then twisting into that layered giggle. The crack flared, and a shape emerged, not Lily, but something else, tall and glitching, its edges sharp like broken glass. It wasn't the shadow from the lab. This was different, more solid, with faint blue eyes glowing in its void-like face. You can't leave, Ethan, it said, its voice a mix of lilies and something ancient. You belong here. I backed away, my flashlight shaking. Screw you, I shouted, turning to run. The chamber had a stairwell at the far end, its door marked surface access. I sprinted toward it, the thing's laughter chasing me, the thumping shaking the floor. I swiped the badge, the reader flashing green, and yanked the door open, expecting freedom, but the stairwell wasn't right. The steps were concrete, but they shimmered, like they were made of light, and the air smelled wrong sharp, like ozone. The thumping stopped, replaced by a low hum, and the blue glow flooded the stairwell, brighter than ever. I stepped forward, my heart pounding, but something grabbed my ankle, like a hand, but when I looked, there was nothing. Ethan. The voice said, now coming from above, not behind. It wasn't Lily anymore, it was Sarah, her voice broken, pleading. Don't leave me. I stumbled, my chest tight. Sarah was gone, I knew it, but the Watcher was playing dirty, using her to pull me back. The stairwell flickered, the steps glitching like a bad screen, and at the top I saw a figure, not Sarah, not Lily, but Mr. Dawson. His uniform pristine, his eyes glowing blue. He smiled, slow and hungry, and the door behind me slammed shut, trapping me on the shimmering steps. I stood frozen on the shimmering stairwell, the concrete steps glinting like they were made of liquid light. Mr. Dawson loomed at the top, his uniform pristine, his eyes glowing a sickening blue that burned into me. His smile was slow, hungry, like a predator toying with its prey. The door behind me was sealed shut, the thumping heartbeat from the basement replaced by a low hum that made my teeth ache. My hands shook, clutching the notebook, the USB, and the level 3 badge. Sarah was gone, Mike was dead or worse, and the Watcher was still here, wearing Dawson's face. My watch said 3:10 a.m., just a few hours until dawn, when the notebook promised I might escape. But right now, I was trapped, and those glowing eyes were all I could see. Ethan, Dawson said, his voice a mix of his own and that layered ancient growl from the lab. You fought hard, kid, but the Watcher always wins. He took a step down, his boots echoing, his shadow stretching too long, with jagged edges that didn't match his body. No way, man, I said, my voice shaking but defiant. I'm done with your games. My mind raced, replaying Rachel's note. The Watcher mimics what you love. Don't listen to its lies. It had used Lily's voice, Sarah's, and now it was playing Dawson like a puppet. I checked my reflection in the glossy stairwell, wall barely there, a faint smudge. I was fading, but I wasn't giving up. I backed down a step, my sneakers slipping on the weird, glowing surface. The air smelled like ozone, sharp and electric, and the hum grew louder, vibrating in my chest. Dawson kept coming, slow, like he knew I had nowhere to run. "You destroyed the core," he said, his smile widening. "But the boundary's open, Ethan. You opened it wider. You're part of it now. Shut up," I shouted, my heart pounding. I thought of Sarah, throwing that chair to save me, and Lily, the guilt that powered the core's overload. I wasn't letting this thing win. I gripped the flashlight I'd grabbed from the control room, its weight solid in my hand. "You're not Dawson, you're just a trick." He laughed, a sound that crawled under my skin, and his eyes flared brighter. "Trick or not, you're mine." He lunged, faster than I expected, his hand reaching for my throat, fingers glinting with blue light. I swung the flashlight, aiming for his head. It connected with a crack, and he staggered, his face glitching like a bad screen, showing flashes of something else dark, jagged, not human. I didn't wait to see more. I turned and ran, leaping down the stairs, 2 at a time, the glowing steps wobbling under my feet. The hum turned into a screech, the walls pulsing with blue light, and Dawson's laughter chased me, echoing like it was coming from everywhere. The stairwell twisted, the steps bending in ways that didn't make sense, like I was running through a funhouse. My reflection flickered in the walls, sometimes showing me, sometimes Sarah, sometimes Lily. "Ethan, stay," their voices whispered, layered with the watcher's growl. I clenched my teeth, focusing on the badge in my hand. Rachel said the emergency exit was real. I just had to find it. The stairwell ended at a heavy metal door, its badge reader blinking red. I swiped the level 3 badge, my hands shaking, and the reader flashed green, the door groaning open. I stumbled into a wide, concrete chamber, the air cold and damp, smelling like rain. My flashlight beam caught a rusted sign, "Surface access. Exit." My heart leapt. This was it, the way out? But the chamber wasn't empty. The blue glow was here, seeping from cracks in the walls, and the thumping heartbeat was back, louder, shaking the floor. In the center of the room, a single monitor sat on a crate, its screen glowing with static. I froze, remembering Rule 1, but the screen flickered, showing Rachel's face, her voice cutting through the hum. "Ethan, you're almost there," she said, her image glitching. "The exit's real, but the Watcher will fight. It's in the tech, the wires, the screens. Don't stop, no matter what you see." The screen flashed, showing me standing in the chamber. But behind me was Dawson, his glowing eyes inches from my shoulder. I spun around, swinging the flashlight, but nothing was there. Just the empty room, the thumping, and the glow. The monitor laughed, that childish giggle, and shut off. "Screw this," I muttered, running for the exit door. It was locked, but the badge reader blinked, and I swiped again, the door clicking open. I burst outside, expecting Seattle streets, but it was still the building a loading dock, rain pouring through a half-open shutter. My watch said 5:55 a.m., almost dawn. The thumping faded, and the glow dimmed, like the Watcher was losing its grip. I ran through the dock, my sneakers splashing in puddles, and found a final door marked Street Exit. I swiped the badge one last time, the reader flashing green, and pushed through, tumbling onto a wet sidewalk. The rain was cold, the Seattle skyline gray and quiet. Syntex building loomed behind me, but as I watched, it shuddered, the ground rumbling. The structure collapsed inward, sinking into a deep, black pit that filled with rainwater, like the city was swallowing it whole. I backed away, my chest heaving, the notebook and USB still in my pocket. I was out. I'd made it, but it wasn't over. I checked the USB later, at a Starbucks across town, my hand still shaking as I sipped a coffee. The files had one last video from Rachel, time-stamped the day she disappeared. "If you escape, tell the world," she said, her voice breaking. "The Watcher's not gone. It moves through tech, through data. It'll find another way." The video ended with her, looking over her shoulder, like something was coming. I couldn't let it happen again. I posted everything online, anonymously, on Redditor. Nosleep, with scans of the notebook, screenshots of Rachel's videos, and a list of rules. How to survive a late night at a tech company. Rule 1. If you're working late, never fall asleep. The post blew up. Thousands of comments, some calling it fake, others saying they'd felt watched at their own jobs. I sent the USB to a reporter at Wired, hoping they'd dig deeper. A week later, I was still jumping at shadows, checking my reflection every chance I got. I thought I'd escaped, but the Watcher wasn't done. In Silicon Valley, a new startup called Nextify hired a night guard named Carl. His first shift was quiet, just him and the hum of servers. Then an email pinged his phone from Dawson Security at syntech.com. The subject, "Ready for your first night." He opened it, finding a single line: "Follow the rules, kid." Carl smiled, tucking his phone away. In his pocket, a USB drive identical to mine glowed faintly blue, unnoticed. He adjusted his name tag, his reflection in the glass door clear for now. But as he walked the halls, his shadow stretched a little too long, and the servers hummed a little too loud.